All right, what is up, folks? Excited to be back here live streaming some more Gatsby. The last two sessions we have walked through the setup and development environment, getting to know Gatsby and introducing CSS. We did some playing around with that. And now we're at the point where we're going to start building some nested layouts. Hold on, let me just check this live stream is live. Cool. Sound off. All right, cool. So let's roll. So we're going to come into the nested layouts, and we're going to learn about layout components, which is basically like templates, if you think in the WordPress sense of how that stuff works. And these could be really helpful for reusable components. So we're going to look at how to add a layout section. It's saying, stuff that you want to use across multiple things. And we're also going to take this time to learn about some plugins. We know about plugins in WordPress, right? They add all sorts of functionality into our projects. Sorry. Okay, cool. And Gatsby has the same thing. So a lot of tools that you might want to use and you could implement in other ways with other projects with Gatsby, there's going to be a plugin to integrate those, which makes it super easy as long as there's a plugin. And then we get advanced enough in tutorials, you learn how to make those too. So it's showing us how to use Typography.js, which is a global base styles for typography. Nice little thing to have. Pretty popular library there. And there's a corresponding Gatsby plugin. So if we clicked into that, we could see in the official plugin repo, or that is official plugin? Yeah. We could see how to install it, when to use it, how to use it, right? All of the configurations it takes, and we could even see starters using this, so that's kind of cool. We could see that this is going to be using it as well in there. Pretty good integration in these documentations and tutorials, got to say. All right, so it also tells us that we are probably going to want to create a new Gatsby site because we've been playing with a bunch of other stuff in other ones, so it's going to have us spin up a new one. And let's see, I'm going to grab this URL here. I'm going to try to do a little bit of typing today. Gatsby new tutorial part 3. Paste in that. That should go and grab everything for me. Just waiting on that download. Warnings. What's that about? ESLint. I'm going to ignore those, hopefully. Cool. NPM life. Okay, so now let's CD into our tutorial part 3. Cool. And we can see what we're working with. We've got source pages. That's going to be our hello world. So this looks pretty much the same as before. We don't really have anything else set up. It wants us to go in there. Now, before we run our servers, we want to install this Gatsby plugin for typography. And to install stuff, you can't have your server running, right? So if you did start that up, you want to stop that, Control-C. Otherwise, we're going to install this. That's a whole bunch of them. Let me copy some of that. Okay, so we're going to run npm install -- save and then paste in our Gatsby plugin. So we've got Gatsby plugin typography, React typography, so that because we're using React typography, which is just a baseline, and then typography theme, Fairy Gates, which is going to give us a slightly opinionated, I guess, Typography.js theme on top of that. All right, so that's going to run and everything. And then in order to configure it, we saw before that there are some instructions. We have to install it. This is how we would call it, but we also have to set it up in our Gatsby config file. So that's what it's going to take us through next. So do we have a Gatsby config already, or do we have to create that? We got to create that. Okay, so let's come into our tutorial part trace and create our Gatsby config.js. And it says to copy the following line. I want to type it. I'm just kind of in a typing mood. So I'm going to type exports equal plugins and then an object with the plugin. So it's going to resolve Gatsby plugin typography. Here, let me just give us a little bit more room. And then options, path to config module, just because some of this is newer for me. I'm just feeling getting comfy today. Pasted around other stuff in other tutorials. May end up doing it after a while. It does save time, and sometimes it's nice to just type everything out yourself. You know what I'm talking about. Put some commas there for that. Cool. It tells us that this is a special file that Gatsby will automatically recognize, and we could put all sorts of stuff in there, and there are some docs on Gatsby Config. Let's go check that out real quick. Note there are many sample configs in the example websites, so you could look at how different ways it could be configured, and it looks like it's got the site metadata. Is this going to be on the same page? Yeah, it's just going to bump us down. Okay, site metadata. If you want to reuse common pieces of data, of course we do, right? Like our site name, our site URL, the description, all of that. That's super handy. Plugins, that's what we're doing now. The array of plugins. Path prefix, common sites will be hosted somewhere other than the root of the domain. So we could have a Gatsby site here, and then we need to prefix it with there. Oh, cool. So what? It sits in the root or sits somewhere other than the root of their domain. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so this is just saying if it is in a subdirectory or a microsite or something like that. Okay, cool. And then what's next? We got Polyfill. Gatsby uses, nice, I like the Promise API, but some browsers don't support it. If you want to provide it on your own. So cool. So Gatsby will provide a polyfill. This is something my students, or we talk a lot about in boot camp and stuff, like when can we use native promises and fetch and stuff like that. Mapping object. So this will come in later when we want to link from one person to another file and mapping things between them. So we'd have this ID would be equal to this, and then it could look it up. Oh, that's interesting. It runs IDs based off of strings. That's loosey-goosey. Cool, didn't know that. And then you could map between other things. Cool. Oh, I like that. Nice, automatic. That's cool. More on that, more on that. I'm going to kind of skip over this because I want to get back to the tutorial. I think that there was something else. Proxying. Tell the developer server to proxy any unknown requests such as this. Run it through there. More details on that. Okay, cool. I don't know. Sometimes when I see link, I'm first going through, I like to click through and check that out a bit. Docs on the Gatsby config. At some point, you're going to be going back there referencing stuff. So we'll move on for now. Now we need a typography configuration file. So this is going to go inside of source, and we're going to create a new folder for utilities, and we're going to create a typography.js. And I'm just guessing here that utils is a common recognized, or we're just making that up. Not completely sure, but I'm guessing it's a common recognized thing. Okay, so we're going to import typography from typography, import fairy gate theme from typography fairy gates, and we want our typography object, and that's going to be a new typography, and we'll pass in the actual thing that we want. Okay, cool. Now we can just export this. We're going to export a couple things. Okay, we've got scale, rhythm, options. Did I type rhythm right? Cool. Options equals typography. So pull those out and export them individually. And then we're just going to export default typography. So sometimes we could scale stuff up, change the rhythm, change the options on the fly. Super handy. Okay, so we still haven't started the development server. I was just noticing that as well. So let's go ahead and run Gatsby develop. Great tutorials, y'all. Whoever wrote these, the whole team. I like it. I mean, it's in GitHub. We could probably go look it up, I'm sure. Whole team is doing smart work. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Once you load the site, you inspect generated HTML using the Chrome developer tools. You'll see that the typography plugin, oh, okay, so we've already got it up and running. Let's go ahead and check that out. Oh yeah, that already looks different. Let's go zoom in a bit here. What did it say that we're looking for? Style has been applied to the head. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Elements. Sorry, I'm super zoomed in here, so it's kind of hard to see in the console. Hopefully you could. So let's go in the head, and we've got a style typography. Sweet, with some inline styles. right there. And we can tell, right, that already looks different. Cool. Let's keep going. It shows us what we've got. We saw that. Now copy over your source page index so you could better see the typography. So we're going to come into our index file. Let me zoom this down a bit. And let me zoom out one notch. Is that all right? I hope y'all could still read. Okay, so inside this div, we want to put some other content. We're going to put an H1. It says, hi, I'm building a fake Gatsby site as part of a tutorial. Yes, I am. How did you know? Exclamation point. So appropriate. Sweet. All right, now what do I like to do? Lots of courses, but definitely enjoy building websites. Well, you know what's funny is that I like building courses too. And in fact, if you're just checking out this live stream, this is what I'm doing. This is how I prep for doing a course. So I'm doing a WordPress course on how to integrate with Gatsby. And this is part of what you do. You know, I've already worked through these tutorials, but I thought it'd be fun to go through them again. And still, I'm still refreshing and ingraining stuff. Anyways, let's go look at this now. Okay, we are definitely getting some styles here. Pretty cool. And it looks like that. That's how it looks. Let's make a quick improvement. Many sites have a single column with a centered div. So it wants us to add some inline styling to our div. Man, having hacked on the web for a while, it's so fun to be able to do inline styling again, and it's cool. I mean, I like the styled components in some of these other ones, but even just this sometimes, it feels kind of fun, you know? Hack the web. Also, component architecture makes sense. Okay, let's go check that now. And if I were to whoop, cool. Yep, so that's working. And it'll probably give us a nice screenshot as it does. Sweet, we've installed our first plugin. Okay, so now we're gonna get from plugins into layout components. And layout components, as we saw, are reusable pieces of code. So let's see here. What it says to do is basically create an about page and a contact page. And this is a place where I am actually going to copy some code because it'll just go a little bit faster. Okay, so I copy about, and that basically just gives us a div, which is the exact same thing we had before, but there's no styling, right? So this is proving a point about how templates are going to be helpful. And then it gives us a contact a mail to me. Let me close that now. And now if I go to about, cool. But see how if I go back and forth between these, there is not the same styling, right? And if I go to contact, exactly the point it's making. So it shows us that, and it shows us how we can create a layout component inside of components. So we're gonna go into source and we'll create a new folder called components. And then we wanna create a layout.js one. And I'll type this one because I'm feeling typey. Import React from React. And then export default a function that is going to basically take children. So it's a component that will wrap something, right? And then we've got our div here, and now we can put in our style. And this will become shared. So we want some margin of 3 remiados. And we want a max width 650. Notice numbers we don't have to put inside of quotes. Padding, we want this to be 0.1 rem. And I think we're good. And then we got to put the children in. Off you go, children. Cool. So this won't do anything yet. We have to use it. So now we've got to go into our index.js. And instead of this here, we're going to import in layout from layout. Oh, no, because that's in components, right? Or are we in components? Yeah, we got to go back a layer. Then we go to components, and then we go to layout, right? See what I'm saying? I'm inside of pages. I got to go back up to source, into components, into layout. Okay, so now I could swap out, and instead of using the div tags, I could use these layout tags that I imported. So I could just swap the div there, swap the div there, and now, oh, it's only on the index. I probably have to do the same thing. It should still look the same. So if I go to home, right, it looks like that, but it already looked that way, except I need to remove these. So let's go to layout and let's just tweak it. Let's do like 250. Yep. So notice that it changes on the fly. Super cool. And now we want to go to about and contact, and it's going to be the same thing. So if I go to /about, notice that that doesn't have layout yet. So now I would just copy layout from my own, paste it in here where there is a div. I will switch that to be a layout. And then I'll do the same thing in the next one. Okay, so now if I go to /about, we got the nice layout. I like nice layouts. I love nice things, you know, beautiful things is part of why we work on the web, right? Make things beautiful. Okay, so now it's going to take it a bit further, and it wants us to come back into layout and start adding in some more stuff here. So we're going to add an H3 with a My Sweet Site. Okay. So that should give us a global header, which is going to be our header for our site. And automatically off the top, I want to come back up to this other article because sometimes it's fun to like hack your own things. I don't know if this will take too much time, but docs me on this. Okay, so if I come into my config, I've got this site meta object, right? So if I'm hard coding this, I'm immediately thinking, how do I not hard code this? So I should be able to come in and do site meta data lowercase. Interesting, cool. I'm gonna guess that. See, nice thing to type in. Wouldn't have caught that normally. Title is going to be, I like the string quotes. I'm curious why. Okay, I'm just gonna do this for now. Well, let me get a description. And I don't know if this has any inherent value or if this is just something that can be used all over the place. Like if title URL, it could probably be site metadata, could be anything you want, I'm guessing. Ooh, Gatsby tutorial part 4. So we're jumping ahead here in the tutorial, but I want to figure it out because I want to know how to get module.exports. Can I just import site data? There's probably my demo nested layouts site. I'm guessing. Okay, you want to know how I would do this? Here's how I would do it. I'd go, how to get site metadata Gatsby. Right? We're learning here all together now. And then I'd search for site metadata. That's not it. SEO, so something more page metadata. Ugh. There we go. Accessing it. I mean, I know I should probably just go to the next tutorial and look at it, but oh, it's got to be queried GraphQL style. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, right? Because everything in this is not like a global. Ooh, hold on. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that's what I wanted. See, this is what I was curious. Okay, I'm just playing around. I want to see if this works, but I think that the correct way, of course, is to GraphQL it, and they have a whole architecture for that. So that makes a ton of sense, but I'm just like being curious and learning here, so I'm going to do that and then run Gatsby config dot site metadata dot, well, recognizes it. Let's see what happens. Well, is that it? Okay, let's test it. Let's go to our Gatsby config, my sweet site 2. Okay, I feel like a genius. But I'm also guessing that this is probably the wrong way. It's used in Node, so it's trying to import the browser. I'd suggest using a different file. Oh. Maybe that's it. Huh. Wow, interesting. I'm still not sure if... Yeah, see, here we go. Site metadata. Wait, where'd that article go? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so they're writing a GraphQL query, which we haven't got to in our tutorial yet. So we'll come back to doing it the right way. Whatever. I'm just hacking it. I'm curious, and that answers my questions on it. Okay, so let's come back down to where we were. Our first layout component, we added it all over. Now it's adding in a title and some navigation. Okay, so we added in that. What do you think? Should I pull this out? I'm going to comment this out just because. And I'll add a comment. Hack way to get site title? Question mark. Pregunta. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's do my sweet site again. We're just following a tutorial here, not doing anything wrong. All right, and now we can come down to this. So now we're going to come into layout, and we also want to build a little menu here. So let's do that. So we're going to import link from Gatsby. This is similar to routing or React Router, but the cool thing is that you don't have to set up any routing. You just do a link and it automatically goes to that page. And I think we talked about that in one of the last live streams. Pretty cool system. And it wants us to create something here, I guess. Const list link. And then we're going to give it a li, good old li. And it wants some styling here of display inline block. So we get them all side by side, margin right. Give it a little space in. And it looks like, is that it? Hold on, goes over. Yep, that's it. And then inside of here, we'll have a link. Oh yeah, that is doubled, cool. To props.to. Where is that coming from? Oh, we will pass it down from somewhere else. Yeah, we'll pass it from right there. Okay, so we're just setting up a list item wrapper so that we don't have to, yeah, component rather than, yep, okay, cool. This makes sense, good example here. And then props.children will get passed down inside of that. Cool, that looks right to me. And now we could come down and it looks like it's going to set up a whole header here. There we go. And we'll style that a little bit. Hey, hey, how's it going, Rob? Asking what made me get into Gatsby in the first place. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I just hear so much about it, and I've known that I want to do for a while, like some courses that aren't just WordPress based, but show how to do JavaScript with all sorts of different data points. And Gatsby's so cool because we could still use WordPress for some of its strengths, like Gutenberging and editing and powering, but we could, for some types of sites, it makes a ton of sense. So I don't know, I'm just excited to be playing around with all this. Thanks to the folks who built it. Yeah, I guess. I wanted to do a course last year, but so much Gutenberg stuff. All right, let's see. Header, margin bottom. Thanks for hanging out, man. Hope this is cool. What made you get into Gatsby, huh? Playing around with it yourself? I know you're doing some cool JS stuff. Oh, I didn't want to save that yet. Header, and then we've got links in here. Oh, it's basically going to be wrapping our H3. Interesting. I would have put the link inside the H3, but what do I know? So this is going to be our home page. Other way. And get some style in here. I'm just going to copy this. Background image none. Interesting. And then our H3 as a style. Don't worry, folks. As we go along, there are slightly more efficient ways of getting at all of this and styling things. So it won't be Inline Style City all the way home, but we got a bit of it here. Okay, I'm just going to copy this part because that just makes sense at this point. Okay, let's go and check out our site. Close down some of these other pages. Wow, that's looking nice. Is that what it's supposed to look like? Let's go ahead and look at theirs. It looks like ours is bumped down a little bit. Yeah, theirs looks in line. I probably missed some float-in or style-in somewhere, I'm guessing. Let me go revisit this and just kind of check. You watching along? Do you see something I missed? Padding up at the top, the header. Float right, list none. Okay, when in doubt, or is it something up here that I did? Oh, cool. Let's see. What is going on here? Sorry, getting a little distracted. Let's see here. Okay, you know what? Honestly, I'm not too concerned about it. It's probably something CSS-y related. And it's just that header. Yeah, this needs to like float or have an inline block as well. No, because that's inside of it. So it's really just that link that's going all the way across. Oh, list style. I bet that's wrong. I was probably looking from display inline. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. What happens when you don't copy and paste, you know? Like so many typing errors. If we could just copy our final project. Okay, now we're cooking with sauce. Boom. Hey, I feel so cool. I did some Gatsby. Cool, cool, cool. Hey, Rob, man, thanks for the support, brother. Seriously, appreciate it. Shout out to all the stuff you're doing, man. Feel free to throw some links into anything you got going on or throw it in the chat there. Make sure I got to get back to comments, too. Okay, so we did it. Cool, cool, cool. We did it. All right, but it has this challenge here. And this, I want to take a little bit extra time and not hop off quite yet because I want to play around with, it says that we have a layout component, right? Now let's try adding headers, footers, global navigation, sidebars, etc. You up for the challenge? I think I am. Let's try this out. So the first thing is inside of components, I'm going to have a component called header.js. I'm going to have a component called what? Main menu. Global nav. How do I want to name that? Global nav.js. Oof. Okay, I'm not really thinking through all of the major naming conventions, and we could have like navigation folder and then multiple ones within that, or main menu. I don't know. I'm just going roughly off of what this suggests or what it's naming here, because naming can be a whole in big discussion. All right, but I just want to code some of this out. So let's come back to our initial layout. And let's see. First of all, this type of stuff can start coming out. So we can have our whole navigation separately, right? So we could rip out this UL, drop that in there for a sec. We could grab this, drop that in there, and let's just import some stuff that we need, or I'll just copy and paste it. Do what I would normally do. So I'd copy and paste that over. So I got my global nav stuff, and I'm going to need to export. Is this how it's doing it? Export default, just the, does it need children? I don't think it does. We're just hard coding it in. Down the road, I know for a fact we're gonna have to like pull our menus from WordPress via something, so that will change, but for the moment we could just export default, I believe, something like that. Notice how Gatsby doesn't use semicolons anywhere? A little different for me, but I dig it. I used to not use semicolons way back in the day. Then they were really a thing, and kind of enjoying throwing them out. All right, does this work? I haven't changed anything. I haven't tested this at all. Let's. I wonder if this will. Let's try going to here, and then importing global nav from global nav. No idea if this is going to work. I mean, this is just basic React, though, right? We haven't even hit doing anything Gatsby, so to say. I think we're just basically breaking stuff out. Right, so this works. Home 1, that updates. They still work. Yeah, we're just building little components here. Okay. Now, if you are newer to React, then this might be interesting to you because maybe you haven't taken a larger app and broken it up into smaller parts before, into components and things like that. So technically, we could even bust this out to be its own, but I'm going to keep it here all nice and tight unless we, for some reason, had multiple menus that needed to do that. Okay, so then we've got our whole header. So let's grab this out because a layout should really just be the wrapper, right? So let's put our header here, or let's set this up. Export default, and then just drop that inside of there. And then we need to import some things like, now this doesn't even need this stuff. Let's copy all of it, but we can remove that. Come back into our header. That should work as such, right? So now we should just be able to import header from header. Is that cool? Very cool. Cool, cool, cool. Love it. So now we've got our header split up. I think that's pretty good. Okay, so now it suggested doing sidebar, which I kind of want to do it. I want to do this a different way. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do I want to rename it? Okay, so here, just to share what I'm thinking. I want to have two different layouts. So often in a site, you'll have a sidebar layout and you'll have a full width layout. So I'm just thinking how I would name these things because we've got our layout and I want that to be the default one with a sidebar. So would we call it layout sidebar or would we just call it layout and then we have a layout full width? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to create a new one called components new file, layout full width.js. I feel like full width should be together, but it should be apart. Okay. And then I'm just going to copy what we had from our main layout here. Clean it up a bit. And this will be our full width one. And inside of all of our pages, I want to go back and instead of calling this layout, hold on. How do I do like, that was not what I meant to do. Okay, instead of calling layout, I want to call it full width, or let's call it layout full width. Because some of these I want to change down the road, and some of them will have sidebars and some will be full width. Nice. Okay, so that all still works, but now let's go to the About page, and we'll make the About page have one with the sidebar. So let's come into the About page and change this back to just layout. Oh, you know what? I didn't change the URL, so it's still pointing to layout dash full width. Okay, I got to change that in the contact page too. Okay. Let me give us some room here so you can see a bit better. All right, so now I'm going to come into my layout one, and let's modify this to, we're going to put our children there, and then we're going to, well, so we probably need a main container. So is there an HTML main? HTML main tag, yeah. Let's use that. So we'll say main. ID of main, is that too repetitive? I'm gonna just like, I only have one in my app, so, we're gonna inline style this, so it doesn't matter. So I could say, oof. I mean, we should really be doing this with Flex or something. I'm just gonna float this stuff because that's what it's kind of been doing here. And cool. And then let's do a sidebar, but I know off the top I'm going to want that to be its own. Oh, and we already have it. Okay, so let's do export default and make this an aside. And then we go H3. Okay, now we got to import that. I'll just change this sidebar to be sidebar. Yeah, now we're breaking things. Oh, because I don't have React probably. Cool. Yeah, I feel like one of the nice things about developing with WordPress and React is that you don't have to include React on every page. It's kind of nice. I feel like, isn't it something so standard that we shouldn't need to do it? We could just configure something else to do it, but I'm sure that there's a reason why that isn't the case. So now we could have our sidebar here. Yes, so proud, so proud. Isn't programming rewarding, y'all? Now we're CSSing, yeah. And I want to make the font size. Okay, now this is not how I would do this, but let's just. Maybe we put that inside of a container. Oh, that's not font size, man. Okay, went to style component styling. There we go. Okay, but we could probably. Would that work instead? Just thinking of a more blanket way to do everything at once and keep it relative. Would that do it? And now we could just bump it down all at once. There's probably, oh, I think scale and stuff could do this better. I don't know these super well. So it's only working for the text, which is totally fine because that's what I wanted to do. Anyways, now we've got full page widths, sidebar widths, contact stuff. Now we're really getting into page layouts, and you can see how it's done. So you create your own. This is really simple, y'all, or similar, y'all, to PHP and WordPress. If you've built WordPress templates, we got the same convention going, except in my opinion, these are a lot simpler, I think, at least at this point. So that's as far as I wanted to go with the tutorial. We could start playing around and create widget areas and all sorts of other things, but really we want to get to the point where we're pulling in data programmatically. And that's really the goal of all of this, because this is dope, but you could already build well, you can't really this nicely, but this is all hard-coded React, right, on every page. And we want to get to the point where we are pulling in dynamic content. We're going to start with Markdown, and then we'll move on to WordPress, and then we'll get into the GraphQL WordPress stuff, and it'll be a cool evolution. So hopefully this was helpful to y'all watching. Rob, shout out to you, man. Thanks for hanging out. Everyone else watching, please like, subscribe, do all that goodness. And of course, you could get my course on pre-order now, so go check that out over at JavaScript for WP, or if you're watching later, it may already be released. All right, peace.